All right. My phone died. And for whatever reason, it doesn't want to charge. So I guess I need to buy me another charger. So anyway, let me start over. Anyway, which coach needs this win more Saturday? Is it Jimbo Fisher or is it Mario Cristobal? So if you're just looking at it from a larger picture standpoint, then it's obvious Jimbo Fisher needs this win more. Jimbo Fisher has not exhibited or had the same success that he had at Florida State, at Texas A&M, and he's essentially brought in the same amount of talent that he brought in from that he had at FSU, right? But that's the bigger picture. But if you look at it from a like right now standpoint, I think Mario Cristobal needs it more, and these are a couple of reasons why. Well, and the biggest one being that from a recruiting standpoint, I'm not big into recruiting like most people that cover the Hurricanes are, but I do understand the aspect that if I'm able to get better players than my competition, I win at least eight out of 10 games. Well, I win 8 out of 10 times, right? And so that's an 80% winning percentage, right? And it's just simply by having, better players, not necessarily me being a better coach. Secondly, I think it will shut down some of the skeptics, right? And I think I kind of fall into, the skeptic category, personally. I don't necessarily have anything against Coach Cristobal or anything like that, but I never thought he was what a lot of people, built him up to be. I think he's a solid head coach that, if he gets the right coordinators and he is able to recruit the way that he wants to recruit, then I think he's going to put together, something special here. But, all that stuff is pending. And then, lastly, I think we need a win because if we are to see that the culture has truly changed and that the issue was not necessarily um, just well, the culture's changed, right? If you're to say that the culture's changed, so we can't we can't say that, hey, okay, we've gotten rid of the things that were holding us back, from achieving the goals and aspirations that we had, and then you go out here and lay an egg. Now, I don't think we're going to lay an egg, but you don't just go out here and lose a game that was essentially um, a close game, regardless of what the final score was. So I think we need a win for that particular reason. But kind of touching back on some of the stuff that I was talking about before my stream went down because my phone died. I was speaking about Evan Stewart and Connor Wigman. I did some research because I had joined the fantasy team, and so Evan Stewart was going to be like my first wide receiver. I already knew my first two picks, but I was thinking if I can't get the number one receiver that I want, then I know I want Evan Stewart because I saw an article and it was like Connor Wigman and Evan Stewart are going to be like the new dynamic duo, you know, in the SEC, right? And so, I did some digging, looking around to kind of see, um, what type of actual program or just what type of players these guys were. And so, as I'm reading, a lot of this stuff, what was becoming evident to me is like, Texas A&M defense was supposed to be a little bit different this year. Now, I'll be the first to say I've never been a huge fan of DJ Durkin. He's one of those names that, you have a good defense, maybe two or three good defenses, and people still hold you to that same standard. But DJ Durkin hasn't had a good defense since he left the University of Florida. Right, and I think he was the defensive coordinator under Will Muschamp. So he hasn't led a defense that was just elite like that since then. No one to talk about what transpired at Maryland, the issue that occurred at not the issue that occurred, but the Ole Miss defense wasn't that good, and Texas A&M defense hasn't been that good. But I did see that they said they were going to be deploying more four-man fronts, and I think that's interesting because a strength that we had last year was that a three-man front defense, it you just have to be just so good, to stop the run. Because if you're not, then you just, you get ran all over. And that's something that happened to DJ Durkin's defense, not just at Texas A&M, but also at Ole Miss, right? So I think, them deploying more four-man fronts, I think it kind of neutralizes, the advantage that we were having, that we were going to have going to this game with our, our retooled offensive line. But I still think we should still be able to move the ball on them, but I don't know if we'll be able to move the ball on them the way that we did last year, right? Because again, I'm I'll take a little from last year and put it over here to this year, but I'm not going to just say, oh, well, we're gonna do last year. We're not gonna do this year what we did last year. I'm not gonna go out and say that. But with that being said, um, I was watching Coach Hayes' show yesterday. Shout out to Coach Hayes and all the other Kane, content creators, and what I noticed is that, we all have, different ways that we look at the program. And I think all of us want the same exact thing. We all want to win Saturday. But also some different insights that I was able to, you know, hear and listen to, as we're sitting there listening to it. And, I wanted to be on the show, but, I was working and stuff like that. But salute to all the guys that, held it down. But one of the things that I did want to say and kind of bring out was this whole vanilla and taking what the defense gives you type of mindset, or just a way of doing things, right? And some people may say, "Well, man, Shad, you're being overboard. Like you're taking it too seriously. Like you're not looking at it the way it should be looked at." It's like, no, this is my opinion about it. Um, Anytime I hear that, I think back to 2013. 2013 obviously was the year Florida State won a national championship, but 2013 was a solid year for us. We ended up winning 9 games that particular year. I mean, it was 8 games. But anyway, leading up to the game, it was debated whether or not Ryan Williams was going to play or was Stephen Morris going to play, because Stephen Morris was dealing with a high ankle sprain, right? So first half, we come out. Florida State scores 21. We score 14, and our 14 point, well, our second touchdown came, going into halftime, and we got the ball back after half. So at halftime, I'm thinking like, okay, this is going to be a game. You know, Even though people say Florida State is very good this year, I like our chances. Second half come, we don't score another point. Final score 41-14. So in the post game presser, your reporter asks, James Coley was the offensive coordinator at the time, and I like James Coley. And he said, Coach, you guys were able to move the ball, pretty well in the first half. What happened in the second half? And James Coley came out and said that we had game planned all week for Florida State to stay in man-to-man coverage. And then they switched to zone coverage, and we couldn't adjust. And so my thing is this, is that I don't ever want to hear offensive coordinator that we have ever say that a defense has put us in a position to where now they have the upper hand. I don't want to ever want to hear that. And so when, I hear, Dawson say what he said, then everybody's like, oh man, they gave us the run, so why not take it? Well, that would make sense if that was our sole intention to come out and run the ball. But a lot of y'all feel like, no, we were supposed to just let it ride. Now, I don't subscribe to that, because I understand who our head coach is, and I feel like that's what he wants to do. But when you come out and say, oh, we had more plays left in the playbook, we didn't really get down to everything that we wanted to do. Listen, man, I've never heard a offensive coordinator in a loss turn around and say, man, we just took what the defense gave us. They took the deep pass away. All we could do was just throw short stuff. No, you force it. You make them adjust to you. You don't adjust to the defense. You make the defense adjust to you, which is what James Coley did in 2013. He made Jeremy Pruitt adjust to what we were doing on offense because they couldn't stop it. The problem came in is that we were not able to force Jeremy Pruitt out of zone defense to get back to what it was that we want to do. And so my thing is this. So if we go out there against Texas A&M, and let's say they get and they come out and do the same thing that Miami of Ohio did from a defensive standpoint, but yet we're not able to run the ball as well, what are you gonna do? You're gonna force it. You're going to start calling plays that hopefully get you back into advantageous situations. But are you actually gonna do it? Are you actually gonna be successful in doing it? So that's why I say I like an aggressive, defensive offensive coordinator. The guys that I like that call plays, Lincoln Riley, Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian. It's like, look, you know what we're gonna do, and not only am I gonna do it, I'm gonna do it well, and then I'm gonna go do something else well as well. You know what I mean? And the only thing that we really did well Friday was run the ball. Passing game was such a touchy. But that's just my thought about it, right? But again, um, this is a this win right here can be an era defining win. I was doing a little research earlier, and we are 6-8 versus SEC teams since 2000. We are 6-8. At one point, we were 6-4. The majority of those 6 wins came from the University of Florida. Um, and that's what it is. We're 6-8 against SEC teams. Um, and we are 0-4 against the SEC West because we lost to LSU twice, we lost to Alabama, and then we lost to Texas A&M. So something has to give, right? Something has to give. Um, and the SEC wins are we beat Florida, and then we beat Tennessee. So those are really the only two SEC. Those are the only two SEC programs that we beat. But obviously, of course, as it has changed, Florida has gotten the upper hand on us. Um, the last game that we played. Uh, what's up, Birdstone? LNV, what's going on? So I'm just I'm pumped. But again, like I said, I'm 50-50 because I think advantages that we have are kind of nullified by advantages that Texas A&M have, right? And I feel like where we're strong at, they have a strong unit as well. And I was kind of getting into it before my video went off because I know some people are feeling like, oh man, this is setting up like to be like Notre Dame. And I don't feel like this is a Notre Dame type of situation because I don't think that Texas A&M just does one good thing well offensively. I think they can run the ball. I think they can pass the ball. So if anything, this game to me could be essentially 2017 when we finally got over the hump against Florida State. When Malik Rozier threw the pass in the end zone. So I think it could be more so one of those games. But just a little bit higher scoring. But if the culture is indeed changed, if things are actually going to be different, then this has to be a game that you know what I mean that we can win. I think back to last year. I did a video last year. It was leading up to the Florida State game, and I had watched Brendan Merriweather. And Brendan Merriweather was saying, like, when they were back in school, you know, the Florida State game was basically about, well, who wants to be an All-American? Who wants to come out and play at that particular level? All-American. Be All-American. And so I look at Florida. I look at this Texas A&M game to be that type of game. Um, we have an All-American, preseason All-American. He was a postseason All-American last year in Cam Kitchens, and this is the type of game that he makes his presence felt. A lot of guys that we have, are gonna have to make their presence felt this particular game if we're going to win. What you say, Birdstone, 31-17 UM. Game come down to QB play, whichever QB play can play. Turnover free or next play ball will determine outcome. I believe TVD has an advantage being more seasoned and battle tested. You know what, Birdstone, I agree. I agree with the top half of that. I do think that whichever quarterback plays the best is going to be the quarterback, is going to be the one that wins the game. Now, TVD being more seasoned and battle tested, uh, I don't necessarily know. Because I think the trenches. I'm like, yeah, the trenches are gonna be important. Trenches are gonna be a conduit. Trenches are gonna be able to facilitate a lot of stuff. But this game is gonna come down to number 9, and I think Connor Wigman is 13. Right? That's what's gonna come down to. We won the trenches last year, and 9 ended up going 21-41. Some of that can be attributed to Josh Gaddis. Some of it can be attributed to just a myriad of other different things. But at the same time, um, 21 or 41 is not going to win you any games. And obviously, you didn't throw a touchdown pass, so he has to be a lot better than that. Um, I think there's going to be a lot of NFL scouts in the building. They're going to be watching this particular game. Um, Clemson, A&M, UNC, FSU, NC State, a lot more big game experience. Um, Let me see. I can see that. I can see that. But wait a minute, TVD didn't. But TVD. Let me see. I wouldn't necessarily call what we did against Clemson last year because we didn't play Clemson in 21. So A&M game, yeah, I can see that. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, as you say it like that, yeah, I say he's more seasoned though. You know what I mean? I think Connor Wigman. They were able to beat LSU last year, so and obviously they won the SEC West. And we talk about Texas A&M team that was essentially dead in the water, and Connor Wigman, actually performed well in that game. So I think from a battle tested standpoint, it's possible they could be even. And yes, and yeah, TVD's more seasoned. Remember, TVD came out and guaranteed it. Yeah, I remember that. That's the TVD we need back. We need the TVD that's coming out and guaranteeing games. I would love, but I mean, it's already Friday. I would have loved the TVD would have came out Wednesday or Thursday and said, "Hey, we guaranteeing victory." But obviously, I don't think that's the mindset and the mentality of the team right now. But that would be great if he did come out, and essentially call his shot. You know, but I don't know if we still got that guy. He's been through a lot. Last year. And speaking of that, I know some people were saying that they felt that TVD had more pressure on him last year versus this year. And I don't agree with that. He has more pressure now for the simple fact that, and when I use excuses, I'm not saying it in terms of like a negative, but he had a lot of excuses last year to where it has put more pressure on him this year. You had the situation of, well, he had an injury. Um, he didn't have Xavier Restrepo for a big part of the season. Um, the offense wasn't, working in his favor. He had to come back and, find new receivers because Rambo and Harley were gone. So he had a lot of, good excuses last year, for the play. So now, since all those excuses have somewhat been, um, what's the word I'm looking for? They've been corrected. Then there's a lot more pressure on him this year, right? And if he kind of buckled under the pressure last year, then he if he can't rise to the pressure this year, then it's gonna be interesting. Weigman nice, but hasn't faced adversity and thrown a pick yet. Interested to see how he reacts if he turns the ball. Yeah, that's a good point. Because that's why I was saying I went back to last year and I watched like he ended the season. Weigman, he had an unhealthy sophomore slump. Do people still use sophomore slump though? Is that still a thing? I don't know. But getting back to that, yeah, Wigman, threw 8 touchdowns, 0 picks to end the season, and they came out with 5 touchdowns this particular week. So yeah, I would be interested to see what happens if it's a situation where he's late on the pass, or we get some pressure and he throws the ball up in the air, and we're able to take it, or even if he hit and fumble the ball. So it would be interesting to see because I know Jimbo Fisher and Bobby Petrino, they're not the most pleasant guys to, walk off the field and have to face, after a situation like that. Um, but Yeah, this is gonna be a big game for Tyler. For the simple fact of it's a lot weighing on it because and it's unfair, but at the same time, people did it to Brad, and I tried to not do it to Brad because a lot of people don't put Brad where Brad should be, at in terms of quarterbacks. For the simple fact of, oh, I mean, Brad played Florida State 3 times and he lost all 3 games. You know, and so if we're looking at Tyler right now, Tyler is 0-2 versus Florida State. He's 0-2 versus North Carolina. And if we don't win Saturday, he's 0-2 against Texas A&M. And unfortunately, um, it's a team game, right? Because I can go back to the last 2 games um, of Florida State that Brad played, the 16 and the 15 game. The 16 game came down to a guy blocking a field goal. The 15 game came down to Everett Golson literally. I think Chad Thomas' hand was this close to knocking a ball down, and but at the end of the day, it's like, oh, Brad didn't play well because people don't really talk about Brad avenging that Nebraska loss going into the 2015 season, right? So I look at it from that particular vantage point where like, yeah, Tyler, you gotta get it done. You think our corners hold up? Not worried about our wide outs as much as the slots if TC isn't in the game. It's slot fade to y'all day. Well, you know what? That's what what's crazy about that is that Miami of Ohio went straight slot fade first play, their first possession. But I think they did that for the simple fact that's their best receiver. So they they played it. As far as on the outside, man, I always say this, people say, iron sharpens iron. But sometimes you don't have iron. Sometimes you got sticks against sticks. And as much as I love Jacoby George, as much as I love the wide receivers that we do have, we don't have iron at wide receiver. I don't think we have iron at corner. But we're going to go play some iron Saturday. So it's going to be interesting to see how our guys do. Um, I don't necessarily know. I think obviously if the pass rush is able to get there, then that's going to help, help it somewhat. But I mean, Evan Stewart was like, he, I mean, Evan Stewart was ranked the number one. I know high school rankings don't mean much, but Evan Stewart was literally the number one wide receiver. Coming out of high school, for a reason. He was that good. So I think that we will have. It will be interesting to see. Um, that's gonna be interesting to see. Something else too, because when we talk about Lance Guidry, a lot is made about saying that, well, Lance Guidry, this is the first time that he's had to deal with this type of talent. And another thing that people are not talking about, this is going to be the first time Lance Guidry has the game plan against these type of weapons as well. So it's going to be a lot of questions are going to be answered Saturday. Hopefully, we're able to do it. Reggie says Mario needs to win. A&M won last year. Yeah, I mean, I agree. We need to win. Mario needs to win. Plain and simple. Now, I will say this, and this is probably the only homer thing that people will hear me say, is that yeah, if you don't win the A&M game, you still got the UNC, you still got the Florida State, you still got the Clemson game, right? And I think most Cane fans feel like that we at least need to win 2 of those. We want all 4, but I think 2 of them will show some type of progress. But losing all 4 of those games would be absolutely. I don't even want to think about it, to be honest. I don't even want to think about, um, losing all 4 of those games. I don't even want to think about losing the game Friday. I mean, Saturday, but like I said, I'm 50-50. You think Gidger goes too high, say the lead Cam back there to cover what that says. I don't know what Gidger's going to do. To be honest, I know that was the big thing that people were talking about is that Gidry is a guy that values the secondary, good pass defense and stuff like this, and it's going to be tested this week. Um, I don't think there's anything Lance Gidry can put out on the field that Bobby Petrino nor Jimbo Fisher have not seen. So it's just the thing about it is it's about timing, right? And it was something else that I wanted to say too is that the support staffs, the GAs, the all of this stuff is just so much larger now to where you got 30, 40 guys that can literally break down all types of film. They can dictate, they can figure out if you have some type of tendencies. If it's third and six on your like on your 40, okay, well, we know that he likes to, slant the line this way and like to bring a weak side blitz or something like that. It's like they know these type of things. So it's just gonna now obviously Gidry has access to that same stuff too because we have a big support staff, but that's just what's gonna be interesting. Whereas like at lower levels, you might not have that much um that big of a staff where guys can actually, look at what it is that you're doing and figure out some tendencies and stuff that you like. Shy, we got this game. Hey, I mean, I want us to have it. At the end of the day, it's 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 um it's hard being a Canes fan, man. You catch unwarranted strays from just a multitude of fan bases. Like I was listening to a show today and they were talking about the game. And somebody said, yeah, if Miami wins, they get to enjoy it in front of all 15,000 of their fans. And I usually don't get into the back and forth about the attendance, but it's like, bro, we just catch strays for catching strays. Like, what are we catching a stray like that for? Why, what is that? Um, but you know, it's I guess what I'm saying it comes with the territory, but and that's a good thing that the win will do as well. I've heard a lot of people say that some of these battles in terms of recruiting that we're kind of losing, they're coming down to guys wanting to play in the SEC. So obviously, a win against an SEC team, especially SEC team that has done very well recruiting, you get to tell you get to go in these living rooms and say, hey, look, we might not play an SEC schedule every week, but when we line up against an SEC team, you know, we win. So you're kind of getting the best of the both worlds here. I don't think Gidry dials up a bunch of pressure, probably allowed to bring five, drop six, keep everything underneath the kids, tackling these guys in open space. It's possible, but I think, um, and I've heard two different things about this, right? I've heard some people say, Gidry's system is kind of more of like a Manny Diaz defense with a little bit more structure. So I'm like, oh, so you're talking about like a Bud Foster defense because Bud Foster had a very aggressive defense, but they were very assignment, oriented. But their defense can be burnt. It can be burnt. I think we sent, we sent some calculated pressure against Miami of Ohio last week, and so I think that we're gonna do that again. I don't think Gidry's just gonna sit back and let them because they have athletes. You know what I mean? So like you got to be able to take, you got to be able to take a chance. And I think we're gonna take some chances, but it has to be, they have to be calculated chances, right? Um, so that's gonna be interesting. AC looking good over SEC with FC. You know what? I was just thinking about that too, Bird. I was, looking at the game. I said, man, like obviously we all are kind of in amazement about, the Duke game. It's like, man, ain't no way Duke did that to Clemson. But to watch, UNC look like they have a defense for the first time and probably since Butch Davis was there, that was interesting to see. The Florida State game versus LSU. That was an interesting game. Um, yeah, the ACC looks good at least from the first week. It looks good. They still got a ways to go, but it's good to see that UNC as well as Florida State were able to beat um, two SEC teams, especially LSU because LSU, they got national championship aspirations. Um, returning the quarterback. I'm sure Brian Kelly feels like they can beat Alabama again. And I know South Carolina had a lot of hype this particular year coming in, feeling like they could be a threat in the a threat in the East. But yeah, the ACC looking good, man. It really is. I don't know if it's looking good enough to where it could be two teams from the ACC in the playoffs, but it is it is looking good. ACC and the Big and the Pac-12. Honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you. Both of those conferences first week look real good. Virginia didn't back down from UT. They just didn't have the horses to compete in Knoxville. You know what? I'm glad you said that. Um, I think Tony Elliott is in a no-win situation right now. For one reason is I think when you initially took the Virginia job, you could sit there and say, okay, we got a lot of work to do. You know what I mean? So um, just give us some time. But then you look at Mike Elko come into Duke, which Duke probably, I guess, if you could probably say over the last 10, maybe 15 years, have actually done, perform worse than Virginia. And for them to be in year two to beat Clemson, it puts Tony Elliott in a bad spot right now, man. I mean, it really does. He might end up. I ain't gonna say they're gonna let the brother go at the end of the year, but it's not good when you know you take a job and then another guy takes a job and y'all the jobs are kind of equal, and then you got one guy is doing a lot better than you, and it's like, and like Jimbo had got, I mean, Dabo had got to that point where it's like, man, hey, let's go hire a Clemson staffer, kind of like what people were doing with Bama staffers. Like, let's go hire a Bama staffer. They know that they know the recipe, and apparently Jeff Scott and Tony Elliott, they got a bad batch. Even Brent Venables, even though I think OU would be a lot better this year though. I will say that, but obviously Jeff Scott got fired and Mike Elliott, Tony Elliott, like I don't look like you gonna it don't like you gonna make it through this, buddy. Bronco started writing on a while at UVA and got the hell on. UVA isn't going to help Elliott. I mean, you're right, because but you know what though? I will say this though. They did give Mike London, you know, somewhat of a they gave Mike London some time. They did. But nah, man. It's not looking good for Tony Elliott. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's not looking good. Is Dabo the new Jimbo, meaning he's stuck? What's up, IMAX? Is Dabo the new Jimbo, meaning he's stuck in his Clemson way of unwilling to adapt? You know what? I was really gonna do a video about that earlier this week. So I'm glad you asked that question, because I know a lot of people are saying that the dynasty is over. I want to be honest with you, man. I don't think so. I don't think that it's a situation like that. I don't think Dabo is gonna be like Jimbo, because I don't think because Dabo's not a play caller. Dabo has never been a coordinator before. So I think Dabo is actually trying to open things up, because um he did go hire the Brawls Award winner, Garrett Riley, you know. But what I will say about that though is that I think when Dabo said that he hired Garrett Riley to come in and run the Clemson offense, I got to thinking to myself, and I'm like, well, what exactly is the Clemson offense? Because the Clemson offense has changed. The Clemson offense that Trevor Lawrence left running is not the same Clemson offense that I remember Taj Boyd running. It's not the same offense I remember Deshaun Watson running. It's also not the same offense I remember that Trevor Lawrence won a national championship as a freshman running. So, and it's most definitely not the same offense that what's my man name, Kelly Bryant ran. So I don't know what the Clemson offense is, to be honest. But I don't. Is Riley the fit though? Dabo won't let him. You know what? I don't think Dabo. Like, I know a lot of people dislike Dabo for a lot of the things that Dabo has done. The lack of, I guess, consideration for some of the racial things that have occurred and just his smugness. But I don't think Dabo is dumb by any stretch. I think now this is just me talking, right? This is just me. I don't think Clemson was prepared for Duke to come out like that, right? And this loss is different than those losses that Clemson took against Pitt and Syracuse, some years back, because those games actually came down to them just, Pitt and Syracuse just making a play at the end of the game, kicking a field goal. I think that loss really is going to make them refocus. I think it's going to allow for, especially I think they got two cupcake game. So they're going to get some time to kind of work with the passing game. And I think Garrett Riley kind of gets in there and works with Cade Klubnik. And I fully expect a completely different Clemson team by the time that we play. I honestly do. I don't. I don't think I'm not gonna say they're gonna win another national championship, but I don't think that it's as dire as the national media is making it. And I'm just looking at it from the outside, from the outside looking in. Um, but because I'm not a Clemson fan, I'm just an outsider. But I don't think Dabo's too high on his horse to um just let the ship go down like that. Even if people are saying, he's just, holding out time, to go back to the Bama job or whatever like that. But I don't think that's what's gonna happen. Um, but yeah, man, that's about it though, man. About just want to talk about the game, man. I'm excited. Um, ready to check it out, and hopefully we get this dub, man. I think it's gonna be a lot of people there. A lot of um, you know what, Birdstone? I got the game on in the room, and I was like, dang man, is what Kansas got going on? But I see what it is, 34-23 now, with a minute 29 left. Um, but yeah, it's a lot of good football going on right now. Dabo is too conservative, pun intended. I don't know, Max though, because um I think what this is what I say. I say Dabo changed when they no longer were getting those receivers. I think let's take this for a second, right? Let's say for instance Frank Ladson um was like Mike Williams. Like say Frank Ladson like lived up to that 5-star potential. I don't think there's some misevaluations at the wide receiver, and they just so happen to fall into getting ETN and then getting Will Shipley. So that's just the way I look at it. So I think they're going to have to get back to getting some wide receivers on the outside before they can get back to it. Shy Ninja, Bird, I ain't got no score prediction. I really don't. I'm being so honest with you right now. I don't have a score prediction because I got it as a 50-50 game. The only semblance of a score I can give you is that I feel like the winning team is going to score between 32 and about maybe 35 points. Right? I think that's what the winning team gonna score. But I don't have a score prediction. I know a lot of people kind of have fallen on it 28, 24, kind of somewhere in there. And I can see that, but I don't really have a score prediction, man. Because I mean, to be honest, I've really kind of looked at Texas A&M a little bit more in depth than I know some of the other guys have, and I just think that we're in for a surprise, and they in for a surprise. So, it's just, so I mean, that's the way I'm looking at it, though. Um, Ellen gonna be out grifting tomorrow, I guess. Do you think it's a TD game, field goal game? Uh, hmm. I think a TD. I think it'll be a TD game. Whichever team wins, I think it's gonna be by a touchdown. And I'll go out and I'll say that I think that touchdown comes early in the fourth quarter. And whatever, because the way with the way that the clock is running right now, if say for instance we score and it's like 7 minutes left on the clock and we force them to three it out, the game is over. And vice versa. If they score and they stop us, the game is over. So yeah, I think it'll be a touchdown game, and I think the game will actually be decided in the early part of the fourth quarter. I will say that. I grifted to get my ticket. Lord Jesus. You gotta stop that, man. You gotta stop that. Yeah, I'm gonna be watching the game with Coach Hayes. I mean, I got the channel on the TV in the room, but I'm gonna probably be checking it out like that. 37-17, think it's close initially, but Whitman makes his first mistake, turns the ball over, we capitalize and play. Hey man, hey, you got no rebuttal from me about that. Um, you know, it very well could be like that because if we've seen it now, if we get a turnover or something like that, the crowd's gonna show up, so it's gonna be different. It's gonna be real different. Um, but I don't know, man. It's so 50-50 to me, man. I mean, I really cannot even make a prediction on this thing. I really can't because it's so 50-50. It's so many things you can say positive about us, and so many things you can say positive about them. And may the best team win. I will say this though. I think this is a more evenly matched. This is a more even matchup from a talent perspective this year than it was last year. And A&M was only won by 11 last year. You know, with the talent, advantage that they had. Obviously, you know, the quarterback was the weak link for them last year. So it's gonna be interesting. Hope is rocking if it's Notre Dame VT crowd turnout. Yeah, I mean that's what I mean. Honestly, I'm expecting that type of turnout though. I really am. The thing of it is that how well do Aggie fans travel? You know what I mean? How well do they travel? So like I said, I know Notre Dame fans travel too, but that's what it was. But like I said, I'm expecting a good game, man. I really am. We need this game, you know, badly. Um, Even if Texas A&M does go off and only win 5 or 6 games, don't matter. They number two. They the number 22 ranked team right now. Maybe 23. They number 23 ranked team right now. We need that victory. We need that dub. Um, but anyway, man. Um, been nice chopping up with you guys, man. Just something random. But as always, man, what's your game of the week, college and NFL? My game of the week is Texas and Alabama, and NFL. Um, I don't know, man. I think my Raiders. We got I forgot who we played this week, but that's my game. No, no, no. I take it back. Game of the week NFL, no brainer. Pittsburgh Steelers and 49ers. Those are my 2 games of the week. Texas and Alabama and Pittsburgh and San Francisco. Those are my 2 games right there. Um, but yeah, appreciate it, Brody. No problem. But anyway, man, as always, man, like, share, subscribe, comment, man. As always, man, it's about you. I'm out. This was dope. I appreciate it, Ellen.